Ooh, I have a great book for you this week. Let's get to it. Hi everyone, I'm Sandy and welcome back to my channel. Today I have 1001 book countdown for you and it is a really great one. I'm so excited to talk about one of the books that I have, and one book that was good and then another book that not so good. So if you're not familiar with the 1001 book countdown, I will leave a card up here for you where you can go and check out the original video and where I go into all the details. But basically I'm reading books off of the 1001 books you must read before you die list and just slowly making my way through that list. So consider giving me a subscribe to see how far I make it on this really wild journey. I am still having a lot of fun. But for today, what I will go ahead and do is put up my numbers. So I track my numbers here on the screen for you. And the first number is my overall total, which is 920. And then I pre-select 52 books at the beginning of the year and work my way through those as well and track that progress. And of those, I have 25 left. Yeah, but I have a great update, like I said. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is actually Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell. This book was originally published as a serial in 1851 to 1853. The book form came out in 1853. Elizabeth Gaskell actually has 3 books on the 1001 book countdown. Cranford, and then it has North and South and Mary Barton. So I have a couple more Gaskells in my future. This book is really fun. It's not the 5-star book that I want to talk about, but it was a really fun book. It was one that had some really fun characters in it. When I went out and was researching about what to talk about a little bit, one of the things I read is that there's not really a plot to this book. And I can see that now that I read that. It is basically a story of this little town called Cranford and all of the women who live there. And the town is only full of women. And so all of the gossip and all of the stories that go along in that kind of community in the 1800s is present in this book. It is really delightful. There's a couple of characters, I believe it was Miss Maddie, who I really enjoyed quite a bit. But it is just this fun stroll through the town of Cranford. There is some darker moments. There's some moments of you intrigue in it, but that is not the premise of the story. It is basically just learning and loving about these women who live in the town of Cranford. So yeah, I think it's a good one. It was a great one for Jane Austen July. It actually isn't this big. I don't know, these Penguin editions that they have. One of the things I noticed is this right here is the appendix of the book, and the intro of the book is also quite big. And so the book itself is actually only this wide, or this thick. And so yeah, these editions have quite the intro and quite the appendix on it, which makes the book seem like it's quite a bit bigger. I did read this in July and really had a good time with it for the most part. So yeah, Cranford. But with this book, I do get to go from 920 to 919, and it is on my 2022 list. So for that number, we go from 25 to 24. Not bad. And then, oh, my heart, this book. I'm telling you, this book is probably one of my favorites that I've read this year off of the 1001 book countdown. It was absolutely amazing. And that is Passing by Nella Larsen. I did this as a buddy read with Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading and Denise at La Rosa Reads, and that was an absolutely wonderful experience. I loved buddy reading with them, loved the conversations that we had about this book. Absolutely magnificent. This book was actually originally published in 1929, and Nella Larsen actually has 2 books published. One is Quicksand, and then this one, Passing. Both are on the 1001 book countdown, so I will get to talk about Quicksand at some point, which is great. So this particular book, if you're not familiar with Passing, this book inspired Britt Bennett's The Vanishing Half as well, but it is all about a Black woman passing as a white woman in society and then married to a white man, and another woman whose name is Irene, who is not passing and is a Black woman. They actually knew each other when they were children and happened to run into each other in New York City. And I don't want to talk too much about all of the different things that happen in this book, because there are some just really impactful and powerful moments in this book. The interactions between Irene and Claire, who is the woman who's passing as white, are really nuanced in the book. I also watched the movie after I read the book as well. And so just seeing that visual representation of this book it was very well done as well. But for such a short little volume, this book packs quite a punch in it, and you really just are going through the kind of the rekindling of this friendship between these two women and all of the issues and problems that can go along with that, with this woman who's hiding who she is with another woman who is not. And it is absolutely incredible to read through this, and especially for the time that it was written. It was written in 1929, but it doesn't feel like incredibly dated. There is some very problematic language in this book, but it fits the book very well. There's a section and a character in this book that just, I loved to dislike this character, primarily because of some of the things that they were saying was just horrific. And so as you kind of work your way through this book, this is also a book that has a very big potential spoiler at the end of it. And so, yeah, I can't talk too much more about it, but know that it is about the two women and their relationship. I'm not going to spoil it because it is an absolutely interesting book and delight to read, though very difficult sometimes with some of the content. So I did end up actually giving this book 5 stars. I enjoyed it that much. I enjoyed the buddy read that much. I'm not sure how much the buddy read influenced my rating. It may have, I'm not sure, but it is one of those books that if this topic interests you, if you liked Britt Bennett's The Vanishing Half, I would say definitely pick up this book. I think this is much, much better than Britt Bennett's The Vanishing Half, by the way, and it is considerably smaller. It is one that I would say should be required reading. I thought it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. With this book, we get to go from 919 to 918, and it was on my 2022 list. So I get to go from 24 to 23. Absolutely amazing. 5-star read. Best book. One of the best books I've read this year. Cat's Eye was the other one that I love so much. But yeah, I'm in awe of how much I love this. And in fact, Kelly and I were both kind of at the same pace. We were supposed to be waiting a day to finish it, and both of us finished it early because we had to find out what happened. So it was that good and that impactful. So yeah, Passing by Nella Larsen. I wish I could say that the last book I have for you was as good. Yeah, no, it wasn't. And it is Murder Must Advertise by Dorothy L. Sayers. I did this as a buddy read with Kevy from Say Kevy, and it was, as always, wonderful reading a mystery novel with Kevy. Kevy can often figure things out before I can, and so just the interactions are really fun as we're going through a murder mystery novel. This particular book was originally published in 1933. Sorry, I have the notes on the back again. Was originally published in 1933. This is part of the Lord Peter Wimsey series, and this is book 8. One of the things I did discover is you do not have to read these books in order if you want to pick up one. I started with Whose Body. I did that as a buddy read with Kevy as well, and then we picked up this one much later. We did that buddy read, I think, back in January, if I remember correctly. So yeah, this is book 8. There's one more book of Sayers on the 1001 book countdown, which is book 9, which is The Nine Tailors. I'm going to give it some time before I read that particular book. So this book is set in an ad agency, and when I went and was doing some research, Dorothy L. Sayers actually worked as a copywriter in an ad agency. So there's a lot of information about ads, ad agencies, how they work, how ads are developed, a lot more than I probably needed or wanted in this particular book. So at the start of the book, the murder has already happened. You see the person at the bottom of the stairs right on the cover of the book. Yes, he fell down the stairs and ended up dead. And so right going in that there's been a death. It hasn't been declared a murder necessarily at that particular point in time. There's just been a death. And then you have a wide variety of characters at the ad agency who are interacting. A lot more than probably the story kind of really talked about. They would show up for a little bit and then be gone. And you have then a new character that comes in to start working at the agency whose name is Braden. And Braden is there to work as a copywriter, but he has another identity. I know, it's really kind of silly. And if you can guess, Lord Peter Wimsey, and yeah, but so the investigation kind of is occurring behind the scenes. And that's about the best I can kind of say about it. Unfortunately, the main problems that I had with this story is there was a wide variety of characters that were very difficult to keep track of. By the time you kind of got to the point where you're interested in the story and trying to figure out who did it, you were over halfway through, and that was really problematic for me. There was a lot of information about things like a horse race and about a cricket match, and in the end, did they have anything to do with the story? Yeah, I don't, yeah, it wasn't the best. I can't wait to see Kevy's review, because her feelings on Voxer about this book were, we'll just say, not positive. So, yeah, she definitely had a lot of very strong feelings about this particular book. And one of the other things with this is I clocked on to the murderer pretty darn early in this book. I know Kevy had another kind of theory of what was going to happen. And, what was unfortunately is the obvious part is ended up being, it was just too obvious, I guess, in the end. Ultimately, though, when I look at Whose Body, which I struggled through, that was a 100-page book. This one was significantly easier to read, easier to follow. It was one that worked so much better for me than Whose Body did, but it's not a murder mystery that I would recommend. If you want a really good murder mystery novel, pick up Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, or pick up a Mary Roberts Reinhardt book. This one just is not working for me, and it does feel a bit dated. It feels a bit dated in how some of the language in it. It feels dated in the activities that are in it, and some of the references in it are very dated, things like that, where passing didn't feel that way. This one definitely did. And we were trying to read 3 chapters a day. We ended up slowing it down just because it was really hard to consume. So, but I did make it through it. It is the book I didn't finish for my July TBR, but it is done now. I'm so glad, because now I don't have to read another Dorothy L. Sayers for quite a while. I did promise Kevy that our next buddy read would not be a Dorothy L. Sayers, because we've read 2 in a row. Granted, 7 months apart, but 2 in a row. But with this book, I do get to go from, let me look at my numbers, 918 to 917, and it was on my 2022 list. So with this book, I get to go from 23 to 22. I am only one book off of my schedule I'm only one book off for the year as far as being able to finish by the end of the year. So that is incredible. I'm so happy that I'm done with this one and that I don't have to pick up a Dorothy L. Sayers again. I'm debating if I just donate this one. I'm not going to read it again. I don't know. I might. I'm thinking about doing a little free library visit. So I'm thinking this one might go in a little free library. But unfortunately, Murder Must Advertise, not great. I didn't hate it. Didn't love it. Thought it was just okay. And I figured out who the murderer was way too early. And that is my update. 3 books. Amazing. So exciting. What am I working on this week? I have, of course, my monster read that I'm reading with my friend Sonia, which is Kristin Lavransdattar by Sigrid Undset. This book is really, really still very, very good. I am, as you can see with the bookmark, about halfway. I have finished part 2 of book 2. I have to finish part 3 by the end of August. I'm very ahead of this. Our reading schedule is usually about 1 part per week. And so, yeah, I am very ahead on this particular one, but I am loving it. And it is one that I do have an audiobook that I can listen to when I'm driving down to my parents. And so, yeah, Kristin Lavransdattar, fantastic story, really enjoying it. I could see myself rereading this one at some point. And then the next book that I have is a buddy read with Britta Bowler, and that is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. You see the bookmark in that. I'm halfway through this book. Fantastic. We had our check-in yesterday. Britta and I are on the same page with this book. I won't tell you my feelings on it until I get a little bit farther in it because, yeah, I'll wait. And then the last one is a buddy read that I'm doing with Fraser Simon from Springboard Thought. And thank you, Fraser, for putting up with my very fast reading schedule. I really do appreciate you being a trooper and trying to keep up with me. And that is A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth. There is a bookmark in there, everyone, and I'm about 1/3 of the way through this book at about 500 pages. And I would say that this one is very readable and enjoyable, just long. It's an investment to read this book for sure. I'm hoping that it keeps up with being as good as it is. It is one that, you know, I'm really excited to talk about at some point. I'm going to have to put it down though, because man, this is heavy at 1,474 pages, but it is one that it doesn't feel like a chore to read is what I would say. I read War and Peace this year, and it took me a little over a month to read that book, and it was actually in my version was shorter than this one, but this one doesn't feel as much of a chore as War and Peace did. So yeah, A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth. It's set in the 1940s, which is an interesting time as well, and there is a large number of characters in this book that are somewhat difficult to keep track of if you're trying to keep track of them. I gave up. I'm not trying to keep track of them. I'm trying to keep track of the main people. So yeah, A Suitable Boy. So I have another, hopefully really good update coming fairly soon, but yeah, these 3 books, I mean that's incredible. These 3 books are really big. Really 2 of them, but yikes. Yeah, 2 of these were for the Big Book Summer Challenge, which were these 2. But yeah, I'm making great progress in them. But as soon as I finish A Bluest Eye, really, I will just be reading A Suitable Boy. So I probably will be making a huge amount of progress in it from that point forward. But yeah, great update, great reading so far. 5-star read. I got to read my first Gaskell. I got to read my second Sayers, and then started a new author, started a new book. What a great reading couple of weeks it has been. But yeah, I'm super interested if you've read any of these 3, what you think of them. Like I said, I think Passing is probably going to end up in one of my top reads of the year. We'll see what happens though at the end of the year. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, everyone. Thanks. Bye.